get up to $30 in Yahoo Sports Rewards points by simply signing up and depositing on the site through us using the code AWESEMO. Here's a simple way to do it. And when you do, make sure to get into some of these PGA contests that are filling up quick. PGA 50K guaranteed, 10K to first. So it's only 10K to first. It's only 10K to first, but there's no 150 max. 10 max entry. Guaranteed contest, 50K prize pool, 10K to first, $25 entry, and only 10 entry max. 12% management fee, which is an industry standard, one might say. Of course, they do the same things with all of their MLB contests as well. You get in early enough, you'll get the zero management fee contest if you catch them early in the day. Go to awesemo.com, click on the Spotlight Hitters article on the homepage. It's totally free, and use that link through us at the top of the article to sign up for Yahoo Daily Fantasy Sports. Use the code AWESEMO when you do so. Get up to $30 in Yahoo Sports Rewards points. It's as good as cash. You can use it to play, win, and withdraw money after you win on the site. That's Yahoo Daily Fantasy Sports, sponsor of The Deeper Dive. Dave Locker and Adam Scher, the man, Alex Baker, AWESEMO himself. Boys, how are we today?
Doing good. I think this is a pretty fun tournament slate. There's not a whole lot of pitching to be confident in. Alex and I were talking before the show. So, I don't know. I think slates like that are kind of fun.
You don't like Lance Lynn at $14,000?
Not as much as I like Yamamoto at 12.
Yeah, exactly. All right. What's up, Alex?
Not much, man. I'm excited for the Open this week, as you mentioned. On the site, we're save a lot of the work for you guys because Yahoo, DraftKings, and FanDuel all have different scoring systems, but we account for all that. I just posted the projections on the site, so I'm excited to build some lines for that. But right now, the matter at hand is baseball, so I'm stoked to talk this 15-gamer with about 4 pitchers on the slate.
Are you as stoked for football as well? Probably not. You're up like $17 million this season, but I'm pretty excited for football too, and it's coming up quickly. We got a ton of free content on the site already. If you're playing seasonal football, redraft, dynasty, best ball, all of that. We got strategy guides. We got team previews. We got previews for running backs, quarterbacks, busts, sleepers, breakouts, you name it, all that. And we're going to be pumping out more every single week. And Alex, I know we mentioned it yesterday, but I'll just have you one more time. Let them know what you're going to be doing for the site for seasonal, because I think we should all be pretty excited about it.
Yeah, free season long projections for every player, every defense. And I think that'll be a really useful tool for your drafts. Well, I noticed Yahoo is adding best ball drafts this year, so sounds like a pretty fun thing to try out.
For sure. I went to a chiropractor today to take a look at my back. It's been in bad shape for a good 10 years now. Finally decided to go. And I was pretty convinced I had spinal cancer or scoliosis or something like that. But I don't
think those two things are equatable.
What's that?
Spinal cancer or scoliosis. Like it's like a similar prognosis.
Not and, or.
Yeah, or.
My assumption was go in there, expect the worst, hope for the best, right? So either the worst possible scenario is I'm dead in a few years, or another one with scoliosis, I'm basically dragging my knuckles on the carpet by the time I'm 37, right? Or I'm okay. And so far, so good. I'm sure you're happy to hear that.
Yeah, that was really losing sleep at night over your back.
You didn't even know I had it.
Absolutely not.
You're full of shit. Yeah. All right, let's get into it. We got a lot of games to talk about here. Glad to have you all with us, of course, for a Tuesday edition of the Deeper Dive. Yankees, Tampa Bay, Adam, CC Sabathia, and then Jalen Beeks is your long guy. DraftKings has priced some guys really strangely today. CC up there, Dylan Cease, 9K. Pineda 92, Logan Allen 92, Heaney 93 against Houston, Yamamoto 95, Lance Lynn 11-2, Desclafani 89. I could go on, and somehow Brandon Woodruff's only 87, so don't ask me. But this is one of those games where a little bit confused by CC Sabathia's price tag.
Yeah, someone messaged me earlier and asked if I thought that DraftKings had just randomized salaries for today, and I think it's kind of possible. Like they have some really weird pricing. It makes more sense on the pricing makes more sense on Yahoo and on FanDuel, which is not something I normally say with regard to FanDuel. But yeah, really, really weird pricing today. Sabathia, I mean, it's not like he's a bad pitcher, but I don't have interest in essentially paying up for him against Tampa Bay. On Yahoo, there's plenty of cheap pitchers that I prefer to Sabathia as well. And then, on the other side, Jalen Beeks with coming out of the bullpen, and then a really tough matchup against the Yankees. So this is not a game that I'm looking to pitch in.
Yeah, are you looking at any pitching here, Alex?
Nah. I mean, the over/under is 10. Neither pitcher is really a strikeout guy, so I don't really see much reason to go for pitching.
What about bats here, Alex?
I think you could definitely make a case, especially for the Yankees because of their talent level. Their ownership is super low, 2% on the Yankees on DraftKings and FanDuel and 3% on Yahoo. I mean, for one of the most talented lineups in the league, you gotta like that. And the prices aren't ridiculous, so they could be a nice sleeper tonight.
Adam, do you have any interest in batters here?
I'm in the same spot as Alex. In my initial crunch, I didn't get to a lot of Yankees, but I won't be upset if, by lock I get there just because of the talent that they have. The first time through the first at bat for at least the top of the order with LeMahieu, Judge, Voit, possibly Sanchez is kind of a throwaway because Ryan Stanek is going to throw 100 miles an hour and probably strike them out. But then you're going to get Jalen Beeks coming in, and they certainly have some home run potential there. So there are a million really good hitting spots on this slate. So it's not like I expect to have tons of Yankees, but they clearly have as much upside as pretty much anyone.
All right. And anything against – well, I mean, with Tampa Bay, CC Sabathia is not a bad pitcher, but he is prone to home runs when facing righties. You've got d'Arnaud leading off again. 3 home runs yesterday. Hard to expect a repeat performance. Tommy Pham, and just a long laundry list of righties here. Where do you stand on Tampa Bay a little bit more in depth?
Yeah, I mean, not all that interested in Tampa just because I don't really think that you need cheap stacks all that much on this slate because there's not really any pitching that you have to pay up for. If you have d'Arnaud leading off at catcher, that's certainly a perfectly fine option. Again, he's, like you said, he's pretty unlikely to hit 3 home runs again, but still, leading off and cheap. You get some cheap power bats here. It's just that outside of d'Arnaud, they're mostly outfielders. Tommy Pham, obviously Garcia, and you still have there's just a lot of outfielders on the slate without getting to Tampa Bay.
Right. Yeah, I think d'Arnaud just at that price tag is perfectly. I mean, it's very rare that you get a leadoff catcher, say sub 4,000. To me, it makes enough sense. Granted, he'll have ownership. What about Tampa bats for you, Alex? Anything else on this one?
Yeah, I think they're jumping out, especially on Yahoo, where the bottom of the order is really reasonably priced. But I agree with Adam that there's not really any expensive pitching that really justifies a really cheap stack.
All right. Well, what are we doing with Baltimore and Washington then, Alex? You've got Austin Voth and Asher Wojciechowski. It's funny because apparently Josh has the same exact problem with me, or as I do, as far as Adrian Wojciechowski goes. I thought he was messing with me today in the show, but he wasn't. He never even heard me say it. So I'm not the only idiot. What are your thoughts on this brilliant pitching matchup between two of the league's elites?
The thing it's hard to keep all these Wojs straight. We also got DFS Wojo and Asimo, so
That's right.
I don't know if he's a pitcher though. So I think with this game you gotta look at Washington's team total above 7. That's insane. Outside of Coors, I mean, Camden Yards is pretty decent. Just really shows how bad this dude is, Asher Woj. And the stack's gonna be super high owned on FanDuel, but on Yahoo and DraftKings, the ownership is more reasonable. So I think you could definitely go here in tournaments tonight.
Adam, do you have any interest in Austin Voth coming in at a significantly lower ownership rate than similarly priced Jack Flaherty and Zach Plesac?
So I didn't get to a lot of Voth in my initial crunch. I think I'll get more if the weather doesn't cooperate in that Cleveland game and I have to get off Plesac. But, I think it's a perfectly fine spot against the Orioles. It's not like Voth's a great, a terrible pitcher. He's not a good pitcher, but there's not a real difference in talent level, I don't think, between him and Plesac, most likely. So you could certainly make the argument for him, but at least in my initial stuff, I was just getting a lot more Plesac. I do have Plesac projected better than Voth.
Alex already touched on this Nationals team. Monster total, Adam, going up against Wojciechowski. Pretty friendly park here at Camden Yards. How much interest do you have in the Nats bats today?
They're looking like one of my highest owned stacks for a couple of reasons. For one, Wojciechowski isn't any good. Two, there's not really pitching behind him that scares you. So you have a lot of add-on potential for Washington. But also you get a DH for the Nats. So it's one more bat in the lineup. And this is just a really deep lineup. If you look at Yan Gomes batting ninth as a $2,900 catcher on DraftKings, I think he's a really good point per dollar option. He has some pop. And then above that, every hitter in this lineup has power with the exception really of Adam Eaton. But he's batting second on a team with a 7 implied run total. So he has his own merits. It's just a lineup that I think that you can stack a lot of different ways. Really, the only negative to this lineup for me is that the number 5 and 6 hitters, Zimmerman and Adams, both play the same position. So outside of FanDuel, you can't get them in the same lineup. Is
this one of your favorite stacks today, Alex?
I really like them on Yahoo in particular, where it's kind of like a low ownership compared to their chance of being in the top stack. On FanDuel, I think they might be a little bit too chalky. And on DraftKings, on FanDuel, I guess I should mention also that the values are crazy, especially Matt Adams. I have him for 5 points per dollar, which is one of the highest I've seen for any player on FanDuel recently. On DraftKings, every single batter is like underpriced, so I think you can make a nice stack, and maybe because of the fact that there are 9 batters that are all in play, you can go a little bit more sneaky with how you construct your roster.
Okay. Let's keep it moving. And we've got a lot of games to get through today. But yeah, Washington with the top stack probability, third highest on DraftKings. So it should not be a surprise to anyone. Third highest across the board. Okay. Philly and the Dodgers, Adam, Walker Buehler, Vince Velasquez. Honestly, since the start of June, Buehler's been arguably the best fantasy pitcher in the league. I know he had that one rough start in Coors, but I'm willing to give him a pass there. He's been spectacular. All of his rates from a fantasy standpoint, that are actually applicable, whether it be K rate, swinging strikes, 7 innings pitched almost every start or more, going super deep into games, not allowing a lot of base runners. Everything Walker Buehler's doing, he's doing incredibly well. The Phillies, on the contrary, have just been flat out garbage. I harped on it at the strategy show today, so I won't go any further. But before we get to Vince Velasquez and what he's in for today, let's talk a bit about Buehler.
Yeah, I think that there's really 2 pitchers on the slate that you can make an argument have had the best season, and Buehler's one of them, him and Brandon Woodruff. The pricing on Buehler, I think, is reasonable. Like on DraftKings, you're getting a huge discount on Woodruff, but Buehler's price tag against the Phillies isn't it doesn't hinder you. He's been really, really good. The Phillies lineup is a little bit weaker than normal. No Gene Segura in there, no Michael Franco. Both of those guys being out helps out the strikeout percentage for Buehler, adding, especially Brad Miller to this lineup. So we know the risk is that, the park does play up power. It's 82 degrees, so it's reasonably warm, but only a 4 implied run total here. A reasonable price tag on Buehler, just a really good pitcher. The lowest walk percentage on the slate as well at 3.4%. A ton of stuff working in his favor, and I'll be happy with any Buehler that I do get in my lineups.
Are you willing to pay for Buehler today, Alex?
I think so, not because he's an amazing value, but just because there's a dearth of options and he's good enough. So I think the matchup versus the Phillies, the lineup they're rolling out today, is above average in strikeouts. He's been a good pitcher, 27% Ks. So all in all, that adds up to a pretty nice projection, along with the 4.2 team total for the Phillies, but not necessarily elite. But since there aren't any Scherzers or Coles on the slate, he's kind of the de facto spend up.
What about the Dodgers against Velasquez? They did exactly what we anticipated them doing yesterday. Do you see them doing something I'm not saying a position player is pitching by the ninth inning, but for the Phillies, do you see them producing solid numbers again today? Because I have a tough time believing Vince Velasquez can hold it together.
Yeah, first of all, props on your Dodgers call last night. That definitely was the game to stack. I think they're a good team to stack again tonight. Again, Jock Peterson is super underpriced on Yahoo at $10. Also projected to be 25% owned. So he's a nice play with his home run derby power. And I think the ownership is relatively low on DraftKings, on FanDuel and Yahoo. It's high, but mostly because Jock Peterson is attracting so much ownership. So I almost like going to the stack and leaving Jock out because so many Dodger stacks are going to happen.
Yeah, what about you, Adam?
Yeah, I like the Dodgers here too. A lot of good fastball hitters in this lineup. Velasquez, will struggle with home runs. It's a park that plays up power, and you're just getting a really deep lineup again. 1 through 7 here. All these guys have power. All these guys can do damage against Velasquez. He is a boomer bust pitcher. And the Dodgers, with a 5.6 implied run total, it's a really healthy total, but it's not one of the highest on the slate. So like Alex said, with the exception of, maybe Jock Peterson or someone standing out as a one-off or, popular point per dollar play, I don't think as a whole they'll be that popular.
Okay. Any interest in Philly bats? I ask only because some of them are very cheap, like Bryce Harper. Not that they've been good.
No, there's just so many good hitting spots here today. If stacking against Walker Buehler wins the slate, I think I can live with it.
Okay. I think that's a pretty reasonable take. Alex, anything to add to this game?
I think, not really. I guess I see the Phillies have 0.1% ownership on DraftKings and FanDuel, which is kind of cool. But, there's a good reason why.
Yeah, there's absolutely a good reason why. And I think I'll do my best not to add to that ownership. Okay, let's talk about Toronto and Boston, Adam. I'd say yesterday went relatively well for Boston, but not as well for a few other teams. Wags Pack and Cashner now making his debut. This is his first start for Boston, right?
Yep.
Yeah, making his debut start for the Boston Red Sox. Honestly, dude, Cashner against lefties this season has been not just good, but great. I had asked Josh today how many home runs he thought that Cashner had allowed the lefties this year. Across almost 200 plate appearance or batters faced, he's allowed 1. Now, I don't think that's sustainable, right? I don't think he ends the season with 0.18 home runs per 9, but he has been very good against lefties. A lot of ground balls, not a lot of hard contact. Problem is, there are a good amount of righties on this Toronto team. And while this Blue Jays team doesn't do the greatest job of actually getting on base, they do hit a decent amount of home runs. So what are your thoughts on this matchup between Cashner and the Blue Jays?
Yeah, I'm getting to a lot of Blue Jays bats because they're cheap and they have a lot of power. And like you said, Cashner has been really good against lefties this year, but he's still been getting torched by righties. And with someone like Cashner, I think kind of like the null hypothesis is still that he's not really that good. So he's either probably not good against anyone, and it's just been, a fluky year so far against lefties, or he actually is good against lefties, but he's still trash against righties. So either way, it's a good spot for these right-handed bats. It's probably a pretty nice spot for the lefties, going forward as well. But with the middle of this order, no Cavan Biggio in the lineup actually makes it a little bit more stackable if you are looking for that right-handed power, because you get, Danny Jansen up to the 5th spot, Grichuk in the 4-hole, Guerrero, Gurriel, Grichuk, and Jansen as a 4-man grouping of right-handed power, I think can do a lot of damage against Cashner. So in particular, I'm getting a lot of Grichuk, Jansen, and Guerrero.
Yeah, do you like Toronto at all, Alex? They are coming in at ownership-wise. Toronto, how far down are they? I guess I don't even see them. How am I missing this? Oh, there they are. They're pretty much they're like the bottom third of ownership on DraftKings. What are your thoughts on the Blue Jays here?
Yeah, I think it's a good spot for the Blue Jays. So 5.4 team total. They have good power throughout the lineup. the ownership is low. So I think you could definitely make a case for them. There are a couple of standout values, like Billy McKinney is 2K on FanDuel. And on DraftKings, Vlad Guerrero is super cheap, as well as Yahoo. So I think you can definitely make a nice lineup out of them, but their overall chance of being the best stack of the night is pretty low, so they probably wouldn't be my first option.
Okay. Anything else on this game in general?
Yeah, I think
Boston bats, of course, against Wags Pack. What's your thoughts there?
Boston is probably one of the better choices you can make for stacks tonight on DraftKings and FanDuel. On Yahoo, they're priced up quite a bit, so I don't really see myself ending up on Boston if in Yahoo lineups. But Mookie and JD are always underpriced on DraftKings. It's like that's I feel like I mentioned that every single show. But the values for the team overall are strong on DraftKings and FanDuel, and the ownership is kind of distributed among some teams with a little bit higher team totals, so I like it.
Adam, what about you on this Boston team?
Yeah, so I mean, I think JD stands out as a cash play on DraftKings in addition to a perfectly fine tournament option. Mookie's price tag jumped back up, but JD's still down there. So, that stands out. This is the second time that they faced Wags back. He had a pretty decent start against them last time out, but I still like them, obviously. But one thing that I noticed just from watching that start, because I actually had a lot of Wags back against him because of his price, he kind of looks like he just has like a really deceptive delivery. So he's the kind of guy where it wouldn't be surprising at all if it kind of just takes one game for Boston to figure him out. His minor league numbers aren't impressive or anything like that. So a really high team total, I think, for good reason. The only thing negative really to say about Boston is that they are expensive compared to a lot of other teams that you can stack.
Yeah, they are. And on DraftKings, we finally saw, Mookie and JD's prices come up from where they were. I mean, they were, well, at least JD's still pretty cheap. Mookie came out to 55 overnight, right? Pretty sure yesterday he was at like 48. Yeah, 48. So decent jump there. Still a good play. But if you had to rank them, Adam, as far as your favorite stacks go, where do you think Boston would land right now?
Top 5. It looks like in my initial stuff, I have like more Washington, more Rockies, more Dodgers, Giants, and then just like a bunch of teams similar.
Okay. Well, then we'll keep going here with Cleveland and Detroit. Plesac and Carpenter. Stay with you, Adam.
Yes.
Plesac facing the Tigers, a good matchup. His strikeout stuff has been lacking, and that I think that's an understatement. But I mean, Detroit is just such a high K team with such little power from both sides of the plate. If anything could exaggerate his strikeout totals, it would be a matchup at home against the Tigers.
Yeah, and this is one game that does have weather concerns. Alex, I'm sure, can touch on that a bit more, but it looks pretty risky right now, at least I think for Plesac. But if the weather does cooperate, then I'm certainly interested because there's not a lot of good pitching on this slate. He does have good minor league numbers at AA and AAA this year. 1.8 xFIP at AA, I think it's like 2.8 at AAA. Had good strikeout numbers, not a lot of walks. In his 8 starts in the majors, he's certainly disappointed. 18.8% strikeout percentage, a walk percentage up around 9%, which is close to double what he was putting up at AAA. But this Tigers team, like you said, is just really bad. It's more, it's closer to a AAA lineup than a major league lineup anyway. And there's not a lot of opportunity cost at pitcher tonight. So, if Plesac comes in at 44, 45% on DraftKings, like we have him projected, then I think I'll be below the field. But that's not to say that I won't have, a pretty healthy amount of Plesac if the weather cooperates.
Yeah, what are you doing with Plesac, Alex?
So I'm looking at the radar. I think given the current trends, there is a possibility for a delay, but the delay would probably be brief in nature. There's a small possibility that the game is postponed, which I incorporated in my latest update. And I think it's probably going to be, I don't think I'm worried about the delay for Plesac because I'm not projecting like a delay more than an hour. But I'm curious to see how that affects his ownership with the weather concerns. The Detroit matchup isn't great for strikeouts. It's a little bit below average, and they have a team total of 4.7, so this is not a smash spot for Plesac by any means. And the ownership on DraftKings is 44%, which is incredibly high, mostly because there are so few options on the slate. But that kind of shows to me that there's an opportunity to be a little contrarian here. There's some other good pitchers on the slate, so I think if that ownership holds up, I'll probably go to some other guys.
Okay. Sounds reasonable enough to me. What are you doing with bats in this game? Cleveland in another pretty favorable spot as they were yesterday.
Yeah, I think Cleveland is one of my top stacks of the day. A couple cash plays. Well, I should say on Yahoo, they're kind of like Boston, where they priced them up just enough to make them not like an optimal play. But on FanDuel, they're super cheap. On DraftKings, like very cheap. A couple of notable guys: Jordan Luplow batting cleanup at 2,600 on FanDuel. Oscar Mercado at 2,700 batting second, and they're both 4K on DraftKings. So this is another spot where I think the ownership for a team with a 6.8 team total, which is incredibly high, is going to be a little bit lower because it's not the highest on the slate.
Okay. Adam, do you like Cleveland hitters here or Detroit hitters for that matter?
Yeah, I mean, it's a good spot for Cleveland. Carpenter's not a good pitcher. Detroit has not many good pitchers behind them either. Lindor stands out as a good shortstop option. Getting him behind like Turner and Story, but he's one of my higher owned shortstops. Oscar Mercado is reasonably priced. Alex mentioned Luplow's price tag on FanDuel in particular being really, really appealing. So I do like the Indians here. It's just, they're one of those teams that is in my initial crunch just kind of falling in to that, 5 to 10 range in stack, rank for me.
Okay. Let's talk about Miami and San Diego, Adam. The pricing here is pretty wild, particularly on DraftKings. You have Yamamoto at 9.5. Like, I know he's been very good, but swinging strike rate's like low 9%. He's done a lot of it with called strikes, which is fine, but not sure how sustainable that is, how long that holds up for him, especially not at this price point. And now on the other side, Logan Allen, who DraftKings has just decided to price through the roof every time he's on the mound. I mean, 9K for negative points. Pretty sweet. No, I mean, I'm not saying the guy's bad, but I don't believe by any stretch he's a 9K pitcher. And sure, it's Miami. If you want to look at total K rate, fine. But the truth is that they're going to run out 9 righties, or I didn't even look. I'm assuming it's 8 or 9.
9.
What?
It's 9.
9 righties, right, because they always do against lefty. And they strike out at a bottom 5 clip against southpaws. So, I don't know, man. Floor's yours. What are you doing with this pitching matchup?
I'm not getting to Allen here. Just too expensive for me. And like you said, not as good a strikeout matchup against the Marlins as Yamamoto has against the Padres. I will get to some Yamamoto, and I'm not happy about it. It's just the product of the slate. In the deep dive article today, I think I wrote like 2 entire paragraphs under the cons section for Yamamoto, and I think my pro section was just that he was facing the Padres in Miami. I don't
Very
buy
convincing.
What'd you say?
Very convincing.
Yeah, I don't buy into him being anywhere near as good as he's been so far. You look at his strikeout percentage in the majors through his first 5 starts. He's at 27%. At AAA, or AA, sorry, he was 23.7% this year. Pretty unlikely that keeps up. The walk percentage is terrible. He's at 13.5% in the majors, 9.3 at AA. He hasn't given up a home run yet. The only really redeeming thing that I found digging into him is that he has continued to have a very high infield fly ball percentage in the majors, which is something that we saw in the minor leagues as well. So there's some chance that he just outperforms his numbers in a way similar to Marco Estrada back when Estrada was good and really tough to figure out. But more often than not, he's going to just regress to what everything projects him to be, and he's not going to be an absolute unicorn like Estrada was. So the only reason I have interest in him here is because there's no good pitching on this, or very little good pitching on the slate. He's in a great pitcher's park. He's facing a team that has the second highest strikeout percentage against right-handed pitching this year. It is a downgrade for him though that Josh Naylor is in the lineup over Franmil Reyes. Reyes obviously is a really, really dangerous hitter, but he does strike out a lot more than Naylor does, or is projected to at least. So that is one more negative for Yamamoto.
Yamamoto, Logan Allen, Marlins Park. Alex, is there anything you like here?
One sports bet I like is I see some sites have a strikeout prop of 6 for Yamamoto for all the reasons you guys explained. I think that betting the under is a pretty good bet there. It's not a good strikeout matchup. The 27% I think is way higher than you can expect it to level off to. He's been a high strikeout pitcher in his career, but a lot of it was at single A and below. And this year in the minors, he wasn't as good. So like that, I think that he might be a fade in GPPs given our current projections for ownership because they look pretty high compared to the price and the talent level.
Okay. What
I'm
about
double
that?
checking now too because I don't have it in front of me. But I mentioned Naylor being projected to be a lower strikeout guy. If I remember right, Margot is a low strikeout guy. Kinsler is a lower strikeout guy. We know Hosmer is. So this might actually be a worse matchup than he's getting credit for. Like for the year, Hosmer's at 19.9%. Kinsler's at 16.8. Margot's at 21.3.
What's
Naylor,
Machado at?
Machado's at 19.8.
Yeah.
Naylor's at 25.8, but his steamer projection is much lower. Mejia is in over Hedges. Mejia strikes out, but that's still a downgrade for Yamamoto compared to Hedges. So it's nowhere close to the optimal lineup for Yamamoto.
That's a good point there for sure. You look at a team and how they perform on the season or even their active roster. You've got to look at what lineup they're running out there that given day. And you're right. This one, not as many strikeouts as you'd want. So just to round out this game, Adam, do you have any bats in this one?
No, I don't think so.
Alex, nothing?
I think you could do a mini stack of the top of the order for Miami, just given their prices on DraftKings at least, because there are a few guys in the 3K-ish range, and they're all great values.
What do you pair them with the Rockies? Pair them with the Red Sox? Pair them with their expensive hit? Because there aren't that many expensive pitchers. How would you go?
Yeah.
Like, I know you're going to run a crunch, but how would you, would you expect to end up with like Bueller in those lineups, I would think, or at least, an expensive pitcher?
Yeah, I think you're right. It might not be optimal tonight, but that does give you a lot of leeway with the rest of your lineup if you maybe you slide them in just because you have 3 slots and no salary left.
Fair enough. Let's stay with you, Alex. Anthony DeSclafani, Alec Mills. Man, DeSclafani is so bad against lefties. It's incredible. And he's going to face 4 of them today. I had a feeling we'd see Maldonado in the lineup, but now you have Robo Garcia batting 5th. So Schwarber leading off, Rizzo 4, Robo Garcia 5th, Jason Hayward 6th. I'd be lying if I told you I didn't have some interest in these left-handed Cubs bats. What are your thoughts on this matchup?
I think this is interesting because the pitchers today are so much worse, but the totals for the teams are pretty similar. I think it's because Chicago's cooled down about 10 degrees since yesterday. But still, this might be site-specific. On DraftKings and Yahoo, the Reds are super cheap, and on DraftKings, the Cubs are really cheap. So they make really nice projection plays.
Cubs are real cheap on DraftKings, yeah.
Yeah, especially Schwarber leading off at 3.9K, probably one of the best values of the slate. But the overall chance of the teams being the best of the night, despite their team totals over 5, isn't quite as high as the ownership. So I kind of like it more as a contrarian play on FanDuel where they're a little bit higher priced.
Okay, what about you, Adam?
Yeah, I agree with what he said. I am getting to some Cincinnati in particular on DraftKings, just because Alec Mills doesn't seem like he's particularly good. Not a real high ground ball percentage in the minors, not a high strikeout percentage. And you do have some power in this lineup, especially from basically Winker down through Senzel, you have some power. So I am getting to some Cincinnati. From the Cubs side, you are much more interested in the lefties, Rizzo and Schwarber. Schwarber, I think, is clearly one of the top cash options on DraftKings at 3,900, like Alex said. But Schwarber, Rizzo, Garcia, all reasonably priced. So I don't mind getting to those guys.
Okay. And obviously, Adam, no interest in either hitter or pitcher here.
I mean, I was getting kind of a sprinkling of Alec Mills just because he's 6,200 and he's probably not much worse than a lot of the other pitchers, but nothing that I'm confident in or like highly recommending.
Anything for you, Alex?
Yeah, same. Mills on DraftKings maybe is kind of a pump play, but he doesn't really have that pump price tag you're looking for.
Okay. Then we'll talk Texas and Arizona. Adam, Lance Lynn, 11-2 on DraftKings. Pretty wild. He's been really good, but it's still very pricey. 98 on FanDuel. You come over to our sponsor, Yahoo Daily Fantasy Sports, and Lance Lynn is coming in at 48, the same price as Zach Plesac, which is pretty outrageous. But you've got him, and then Alex Young, a lefty. We know that Texas has struggled against lefties this year. Well, let's start with the pitching matchup, and feel free to segue into Texas bats. And if you have any interest against Young, while he might not be great, their numbers against lefties really have been terrible this year.
Yeah, it's pretty weird when there's a game in Texas and you kind of forget about it.
Yeah.
Not that I'm saying that with a lot of confidence, but Lance Lynn has been good, like you said, but outside of sprinkling him into some lineups as a pay up to be contrarian play on DraftKings, it's pretty tough to get there. Arizona doesn't give you a ton of strikeouts. They only have 3 right-handed hitters in the lineup, which is a really big deal for Lance Lynn's strikeout numbers. The park, of course, isn't favorable for pitching. And then on the other side, if Alex Young were down at like 6K or something, I could definitely be talked into him just because of the lack of pitching on the slate and the matchup. But at 7,600 on DraftKings, I don't really need to get there. And on like Yahoo, the other 2 pitcher site, they've priced a lot of pitchers more affordable than DraftKings did. So I don't really think I need to be taking Alex Young in Texas there. But on the other hand, outside of just trying to be contrarian, it's tough for me to really get to Texas bats either because they just have so many lefties in this lineup. They have so many guys that aren't really that good at hitting or are overpriced. Like I'm still not really looking to pay almost 5K for Hunter Pence. So I don't know. I just don't get a lot of this game. It doesn't really feel that good, but that's where I'm at.
Like I'm almost tempted to play Alex Young. It doesn't. I mean, you're right. If he was cheap, like if Alex Young was the same price as Steven Matz, I think I'd actually have interest.
Exactly. Yeah. If you were the same price as Alec Mills, I would have 10% Alex Young or whatever.
Sure. Yeah, it's hard to get there at that price, though. What are your thoughts on this game as a whole, Alex?
I'll throw Lance Lynn some love on Yahoo because he's 48, much lower price tag compared to FanDuel and DraftKings. I mean, he's been a good pitcher this year. The park kind of stinks, and the matchup's not great for strikeouts, but he's one of the better pitchers on the slate as far as talent this year at least. And besides that, I'm not really seeing much like you guys. Just because the price tags are high and they're kind of getting drowned out by some of the better spots in the slate.
I would agree. I never thought we'd spend such little time on a Texas Globe Life game, but here we are. Alex, Michael Pineda, Steven Matz. Man, we're cruising through this slate. Steven Matz, 6K on DraftKings. I don't really want to mention him even on single pitcher sites. Over there on Yahoo, you've got Matz at 32. So he is very cheap, but man, it's a brutal matchup. Just going to have to try and carve through a gauntlet of quality bats. And then Pineda on the other side, I think the Mets get a bad rap in terms of matchup. They're not that easy of a matchup for opposing pitchers. Maybe you have some different opinions and like these pitchers today.
No, I'm with you. I think if I was going to play either pitcher on any site, it'd be Matz on DraftKings just because he's 6K
Right.
and he's not that much worse than any of the other options that aren't super chalk, so not craziest play, but I don't really love it. This is a game where I'm more on the bats.
Yeah, Adam, do you agree?
Yeah, same for me. Pineda's coming off of a couple of really good starts where he racked up strikeouts. His plate discipline numbers are really, really good. Swinging strike percentage is really high. Chase percentage is really high. But digging into him more, I can't really find out anything that's changed. His velocity is the same as it has been. His movement's similar. His arm slots are the same or similar. So and like you said, it's not an actually great matchup against the Mets. So at an elevated price tag, I don't really see myself getting to Pineda. I'm not getting to a lot of Mats just because I have so much respect for the Twins. CJ Cron being back in this lineup in particular for Minnesota is a really, really big boost. He's inexpensive. He's batting fifth. I like him a lot. Up at the top, you have a nice price tag on Gonzalez. The Twins are just really, really affordable, especially on DraftKings. So I like that. And then individually from the Mets, I think Michael Conforto is a really good one-off.
I mean, the thing about Mats, Adam, is like, while he's not a bad pitcher, he's still looking at a pitcher who gives up more than 2 home runs per 9 to righties. So, when things are going poorly, their balls are usually leaving the yard.
Yeah, he still gives up power to righties. He still gives up stolen bases. He's a decent strikeout pitcher for his price tag, but you're talking about a Minnesota team that doesn't have a ton of strikeouts in the lineup and has as much power as pretty much any offense in baseball.
Absolutely. Alex, do you want to talk about some hitters here?
Sure. I think that the Mets on Yahoo, there are a few standout plays. Michael Conforto at $11, batting second. Cano at 7, and Dominic Smith at 7. All underpriced, so I think you could make a really nice mini stack out of the Mets on DraftKings. There are a couple of Mets I like too. Cano being probably the best value. And he even hit a home run the other night, so I guess he's on a hot streak. So then Minnesota, I kind of agree with you guys that really good offense, a lot of power. Getting lost a little bit in the shuffle on the slate of the slate, which is nice, especially like them on Yahoo where they have the lowest ownership.
Okay. By the way, one of our trusty subscribers just mentioned in Slack chat that he said that he's seen it match will be limited to 75-80 pitches.
Okay.
Makes sense. He made like 3 relief appearances before the break, so he hasn't actually started a game in a few weeks.
Yeah, and appreciate that info, Uncle. Hit us with a link, by the way, just so we have some proof, because I didn't see it. I could have easily just missed it. I believe you. Don't worry. Anything else on this one, Adam?
I think I mentioned Conforto, but if I didn't, I like Michael Conforto as a one-off a lot.
Did anyone mention Pete Alonso?
I mean, he's obviously a good one-off. It's just first base is loaded.
Yeah, I had the same conversation with Josh today when we were talking about some of the White Sox bats. Like, how do you play Abreu at first base, even if it's not the worst spot? But first base may be loaded, but Pete Alonso is one of the best power hitting first baseman in the league too. So, when you got a 30 homer guy against someone like Pineda who is coughing up home runs left and right to righties, I don't look at it too much as like an opportunity cost thing. I just look at it as another really good first baseman.
Yeah, I agree with you. And to clarify, when you said 30 home run guy, you meant 30 home run in the first half guy.
You're damn right. All right. Adam, Milwaukee, Minnesota. When you talk about randomizing, the one guy that DraftKings won't randomize is Woodruff. They're just like, let's constantly leave him above or below 9K or around 9K, no matter who he's facing, good matchup, bad matchup. We don't think he's good.
Yeah, they're wrong on that one. Him and Buehler, I think, are pretty clearly the 2 best pitchers on the slate in terms of talent. On Yahoo and on FanDuel, you're getting them at similar, on FanDuel, you're getting them at similar price tags. On Yahoo, you're getting a nice discount on Woodruff, and on DraftKings, you're getting a nice discount on Woodruff. It's a tough matchup against the Braves. No way around that. They're an above-average offense. They don't strike out a lot, but Woodruff has the highest strikeout percentage on the slate. He has the second best K-minus BB percentage. He's 9th amongst all qualified starters in PCRA this year, just like 1/100th of a point ahead of Buehler. And he's done a really good job. Like, he's been good against lefties, but he's done a really good job of limiting damage against right-handed hitters. And most of the power in the Braves lineup comes from the right side. He's allowed a 106 expected ISO, a 260 expected WOBA, 29.6% K percentage against right-handed hitters this year. So still not the scariest spot, especially on sites where he is priced down. And then Tyler Flowers being in this lineup over Brian McCann is one slight point in Woodruff's favor. You get some more strikeouts there. You get another right-handed bat as well.
Okay. Yeah. What are your thoughts on Woodruff, Alex? We could always call the hotline to see what's going on with the roof. But first, let's talk about where we like him without weather concerns.
Yeah, I think he's probably one of the best options on all three sites. All the reasons Adam mentioned. One thing that I'm noticing today is the lineup the Braves are rolling out strikes out considerably more than their average. I have them for 24.3%. Usually they're quite a bit below average from my recollection. So I think the strikeouts will be there, and the price tag is affordable, and there's not really great options tonight other than him and Bueller, so I like it.
Okay. Bryce Wilson on the other side. Alex, thoughts on this matchup for the Milwaukee Bats or for Bryce Wilson?
I think it's a good strikeout matchup, but this guy is just about, I have him projected to be around average for strikeouts, facing a tough offense with a lot of power and good on base percentage. I think that he's kind of digging a little bit too deep for me tonight.
What about you, Adam? Miller Park, obviously a great power park.
Yeah, I feel the same way. He's just priced up. I mean, he could be a good pitcher in the future. He's young. He's a top prospect, but I just don't see any reason to be paying for him on there are a bunch of cheap pitchers that I like more on Yahoo. On DraftKings, he's priced up to 8,500, so he's one of the guys that's just clearly overpriced. If anything, I would look to some of the left-handed power here. You have Yelich through Eric Dames 2 through 5, all left-handed power bats in Miller Park against an unproven young pitcher in Wilson.
All right. Favorite hitters from this game?
Yelich, Grandal.
Favorite bats from this one, Alex?
Thames on FanDuel and Kane on Yahoo.
All right.
On DraftKings, I think the Brewers are going to be a little bit over-owned, so I'm not going to be super high on them, I think.
Okay. So there's a conversation going on in chat now about The Bachelor, so we're getting in on that.
Man, yeah, I don't even want to get started. I have so much to say.
Do you watch it?
Yeah, dude.
I knew it.
My girlfriend got me into it.
Well, of course. You don't get into it on your own.
I would never watch it if it wasn't for my girlfriend.
Of course not. At least
how long did it take you to get your girlfriend into it?
I mean, as Chris Randone said, every guy secretly watches The Bachelor.
Yeah, and the ones that hate on it are the ones that are secretly watching it and are single. So, yeah, that's what I think, man. This season of The Bachelorette's been wild, man. Check out Luke P and tell me that's not some entertaining shit. Get back to me on that.
I'm glad that you also appreciate him because, I feel like that's been the best part of the season is all the drama.
Easily. Dude, every time he's about to get kicked off, I'm like, well, the show's going downhill now. I go on Twitter and everyone's so upset that she kept him around. Like, what don't you like? Do you want entertainment? I don't care if she finds love. I just want to be entertained. And he is insane, man. All right. I'm sure everyone was happy to hear about that.
We're really hitting our base here.
Yeah, right. Demographics, baby. All right. Kansas City and Chicago White Sox. Dylan Cease and the beautifully priced Glenn Sparkman, who wears his hat on the top of his head. Please just pull. Have you seen the headshot on DraftKings? It's like someone gave him a 6 3/4, 59.50. It was like, here, try this on. He's like, it doesn't fit. They're like, good, great. See you later, Glenn. It's unreal. Just pull it up. It's on the top of his head, just like sitting up there like this. Oh man, no respect. What are your thoughts on this one, Adam?
He is a pitcher at $4,300 on DraftKings that can throw around 100 pitches and is facing the White Sox. So I'm not going to get one.
Very solid K rate too.
Yeah, really solid 11% strikeout. I mentioned in the deep dive article today that he actually gives me a little bit of hope that the Orioles will sign me after I throw out the first pitch on Friday. He gives up a ton of home runs. He doesn't strike guys out. I really have no idea how this guy pitches in the major leagues. But he's 4,300. He's breathing. There's no opportunity cost at pitcher. I'm not getting a ton, but he's someone that I'm getting, 10% of my lineups or something.
If you had to set a strikeout prop for him today, what would it be?
3.5.
Oh, I'd set it at 2.5. His K totals are incredible.
Actually,
This is
yeah.
2-2-3-3-3-1-3. Oh my god.
I'm higher than both of you guys. I got him at 3.8.
Okay. Not bad. You like him today, Alex? One of your top guys?
Yeah, I'm all in, especially on the one pitcher sites.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on Dylan Cease?
I think he's had a good few starts, but the advanced metrics, xFIP 6.9 so far. So I mean, his strikeout rate's been 25%, which is encouraging, but I think that's a little bit higher than his minor numbers indicate he'll end up at. And the price tag is just too high. He's facing a team with a above 5 team total, so I don't really see much argument to go for him.
All right. Man, chat's raging on about this right now. I gotta focus. Alex, what about bats? Do you have any interest in guys like Yohan Moncada batting second against Sparkman, who, I mean, even Moncada, who struggled with bat control for his career on pitches specifically in the zone, even he could probably be blindfolded and barrel up every single pitch given to him by Glenn Sparkman.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I feel like a lot of these guys just swing for the fences, and no matter who's on the mound, you're gonna strike out a decent amount doing that. So, but I think
And he's expensive.
the White Sox are a really good play on all three sites as far as value goes. But the ownership doesn't look like it's super low, so I like them, but not a top stack. Kansas City has a little bit less potential, but also great value. I think on Yahoo, they could be a good punt and stack.
Are you getting the bats from either side, Adam?
Not really. I mean, I obviously don't have any problem taking bats against Sparkman. It's just a matter of how many good offenses are on the slate. Dylan Cease has really good stuff. He's one of the top pitching prospects in baseball. I wish he were cheaper on DraftKings because I would roster him, but I'm not paying $9K for him. But I'm not really looking to take too many guys against him either. 70 grade fastball. Average 97 miles an hour on his first start this year. He has a plus curveball, plus slider. So not really looking to get to too much Kansas City.
All right, let's move on then and talk St. Louis and Pittsburgh. Adam, you've got Jack Flaherty on the mound. He's $7,400 on DraftKings, which is pretty cheap, 77 on FanDuel, and over on Yahoo, 36. So affordable everywhere. But I mean, it's probably worth pointing out that St. Louis or Pittsburgh has the third lowest K rate versus righties in the league, and it's 0.2% off from the lowest strikeout team in the league, which I believe is the Angels or Houston, one of the two. It's like 17.3, 18.3%. Either way, super low. And Flaherty has been markedly better against righties this season. The strikeout numbers are hugely different. And in the lineup today, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lefties in the top 6. You got Frazier, Reynolds, Bell, Moran, Corey Dickerson, and then a couple of the righties in this lineup don't strike out anyway. I get the price. I totally get it. I get why he's going to be popular, but just want to throw a little devil's advocate in there because it's not the greatest spot.
Yeah, it's kind of a spot where I don't know exactly what to do because if you had to draw up the worst possible matchup for Jack Flaherty, it's this. You have what, 7 lefties? Sorry, you have 5 lefties in the lineup, but they're all in the top 6.
But then some of the righties don't strike out at all either.
Right, exactly. Like someone in chat earlier mentioned, there's still 4 righties in there and he strikes out 32% of righties. That's true. But if you look at the righties, Kevin Newman has a 12.6% strikeout percentage. Elias Diaz is at 15.3%. Yeah. There are 2 hitters in this entire lineup with a strikeout percentage over 20%. It's Brian Reynolds and Colin Moran. Reynolds at 21.8, which is low, and Moran at 24.1, which isn't crazy high. And they're both left-handed, where Flaherty has a 20% strikeout percentage this year. And then on top of that, the Pirates actually are an above-average offense in terms of production as well. It's not like they're a Miami-type team that is just hitting ground balls to shortstop. So all that stuff is working against Flaherty, but he is priced in the same price range as a bunch of just really bad pitchers that are nowhere near as talented as him. So he is clearly still like a top point per dollar play. It's just that I think if he's going to come in around 40-45% ownership in tournaments, I'll probably come in underweight just because it's a really, really bad matchup for Flaherty.
It is, and for what it's worth, it's humid in St. Louis too, hot and humid. Alex, share your thoughts on this matchup for Flaherty.
I have to agree with Adam. I don't think it's a great matchup. The one encouraging factor is the Pittsburgh team total is tied for about the lowest on the slate, so that's always pretty nice when you have a pitcher in the mid price. I don't think the strikeout numbers will be great on average today because of the low strikeouts from Pittsburgh, but because there's a few reasonably priced pitchers on the whole slate, I think that Flaherty definitely makes a lot of sense tonight. He's probably one of the pitchers I'll have a decent amount of.
Yeah, kind of hard to ignore it, but man, it is not a fun spot. Then on the other side, Alex, you've got Dario Agrazal against St. Louis. What are your thoughts on this matchup? And are there any hitters in this game at all that you like?
Yeah, I mean, if we're hitting on Sparkman's K numbers, we gotta throw this Agrazal 10% so far. I don't care how many starts that is. That's pretty terrible.
Sure is.
And St. Louis seems like they're always a little bit underpriced, especially on Yahoo, where I have them as a 15% chance of being the top value stack of the day. Just a lot of players in the kind of averaging out to $10 with a 5.3 team total. That's some nice value. Also on DraftKings and FanDuel, the top of the order is pretty easy to stack up. But I think that the overall potential for the team isn't quite as high as some others on the slate.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Do you have anything to add, Adam?
Nope.
All right. What are your thoughts then on Colorado and San Francisco? Drew Pomeranz, Peter Lambert, monster total in this game, which should surprise nobody. Right now the total is at 14.5. Yeah, that's pretty high. Pomeranz has strikeout up. I'll be honest with you. As crazy as it sounds, if you ask me whether I'd rather play Sparkman or Pomeranz, I'd probably take Pomeranz even at Coors. That's not a ringing endorsement whatsoever. I mean, at all. But one of the guys might get a pair of strikeouts. The other one can at least miss some bats. But I obviously love the Rockies hitters today, particularly from the right side.
Yeah, I mean, as far as Pomeranz, like I might get like 5% or something like that because he does have strikeout stuff, but he's also a pretty big beneficiary of pitching in San Francisco. His numbers at home are phenomenal. His numbers outside of San Francisco are really bad. I think the actual answer is somewhere in the middle, and that he's kind of just a middle of the road pitcher who is pitching in Coors Field. So that normally doesn't go very well. Arenado and Story both in the lineup, Desmond in the lineup. So no breaks there. There are 4 lefties, but Blackman hits lefties well. Murphy's fine. Tapia and McMahon, neither one are terrible. So it's a spot where Pomeranz probably gets blown up, but he's 4,500. So, and he's not a worse pitcher than Sparkman. So, if you need savings and want to sprinkle him in, go for it. But most of the exposure here should be to the bats. Colorado, obviously, Story and Arenado, 2 of the top plays on the entire slate. And then on the other side, Peter Lambert really has done nothing in the majors to make us think that he's particularly good. He is facing the Giants, who are not a good offense, but it's a huge park upgrade for them. They do have plenty of left-handed power. Belt, Dickerson in particular are, I think good plays, even though they're a little bit overpriced.
Lambert against lefties has just been absolutely dreadful.
Yep.
Alex, what about this one for you? Monster total, high implied run totals on each side of this one. It's hard not to. 94 degrees at Coors. I mean, what is there not to like outside of ownership? But even that, like last update I looked at on the stack tool, the ownership on the Rockies is still significantly lower than the top stack probability.
Yeah. 90 degrees in Coors, from what we've seen, this should be a good spot for pitching. Am I right?
Yeah.
Yeah, they might score 4 runs tonight.
My God.
Well, yeah, I have to agree with your assessment of the top stacks tool that it seems like the ownership is just a lot lower than it was yesterday. Yet the over-under is still 14.5. That's as high as it gets outside of London. So I think you gotta love it, especially if the ownership is going to be spread out tonight.
Okay. Adam, a very obvious question, but I'll ask it anyway because we get a lot of obvious questions that I'd like to avoid. Favorite hitters from this game? Give me some on both sides.
Arenado, Story, Belt, Dickerson.
Alex?
Yeah, same. I think the whole San Francisco lineup looks playable to me. I mean, none of them are great, but maybe you'll get some more doubles and triples because it scores.
All right.
I guess we don't have a confirmed lineup, but the prices are just like too low on every site.
Yes, they are. Yeah, we got our confirmed Rockies a little while ago, but I don't see anything on the Giants yet. Let's go to the two final games that we've got here. Seattle and Oakland. Alex, Marco Gonzalez, Daniel Mangden, both of them priced seemingly well above their talent levels. I know they are in a good park, but it's Marco Gonzalez and Daniel Mangden.
Yeah, you gotta like the Bay Area games when it's July, but these pitchers are not the ones that really are gonna grab your attention. Marco Gonzalez, 17% Ks on the year, Mangden 18%, so that's about 25% less than average for both pitchers. And the price tags aren't cheap. I still see that Mangden's getting some ownership on all three sites, but I guess Seattle, they strike out about average. The team total is 4.5, so I guess I can see it, but this is not a spot where I'm really enthusiastic about having him.
All right. Adam, I'll ask you about this game just as a whole. Pitching, hitting, if anything stands out to you at all.
Nothing really stands out. Getting a little like sprinkling of Mangden just because the Mariners do have a 4.1 implied run total, and I don't really want all my eggs in any one pitching basket on the slate where they all suck. The only thing that really stands out is Chris Davis's DraftKings price tag, 3,400 against Gonzalez. Pretty obviously in play for any format that you're playing.
Okay. Do you want to talk about hitters, Alex?
I know that one of our fellow content creators is a big Daniel Vogelbach fan, especially when it comes to calling home runs. So I'll give him some love on Yahoo where he's $9.
Okay. Who's that you're talking about? Emac?
Yeah.
He does love him some Vogelbach. Vogelbach and Emac. All right. Last one. Man, we're making good time. Because we're making such good time, it's probably an opportune spot for me to tell you that if you signed up at awesemo.com for an Awesemo Plus subscription, you get 50% off your first month by using the sign-up code Deeper Dive. It's all one word, Deeper Dive. Gets you access to the player projections, the ownership projections, the top stack tool, all of which Alex Baker, Awesemo himself, built, uses, and utilizes every day to win money playing DFS. Access to all of that. The Fantasy Cruncher add-on, the lineup builder, articles from myself and Adam and Josh and Ben and everyone else that we labor over each and every day. Of course, Jake as well. MLB, NHL, NFL, WNBA, PGA, NASCAR, MMA, bet everything. Just head over to awesemo.com. Check it out for yourself. And if you don't feel like spending a ton of money, well, you get 50% off your first month by using the code Deeper Dive, all one word, when you sign up upon checkout. Hopefully we'll see you over there. And hit us up in the Slack chat as well. We got a premium Slack chat for all of our premium members. Last game, boys. Angels, Houston. Andrew Heaney. And looks like we've got Armenteros. That I'm going to go with that one, Adam. I'm going to go with Armenteros. How's that sound?
That sounds good. That's how I was saying it in my head earlier.
Okay, good. What are your thoughts?
I guess the first name's like Rogelio.
I just see R.
Oh, yeah.
No, I'm kidding. Yeah, that would be my guess as well.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, nothing really nothing I love in this entire game. Heaney's a pretty decent pitcher, but I'm not interested in paying $9,300 for him on DraftKings. On Yahoo, where you need two pitchers, there's other cheap guys that I'd rather get to. Not looking to either the Astros pitchers against the Angels. The only thing that really stands out is that Jose Altuve's price tag is still broken. Alex Bregman is reasonably priced. So is George Springer. But in the context of like the entire slate, I think the only guy that I really get to a lot is probably Altuve. I certainly think he's like a cash option on DraftKings at 4K.
Okay. Do you have any interest in this game, Alex?
But I think that Houston is playable on DraftKings, on FanDuel, and Yahoo. They're just too expensive, and there are too many good options. So I think maybe if you're really trying to be super contrarian and winner take all, like that could be a decent idea. The Angels look kind of fairly priced, or a little bit too expensive. But Trout is always a top option, and today is no exception. Especially facing a guy like Armenteros. But the 10 over under is pretty good for the Angels stadium, but I guess it's just not that impressive when half the games on the slate have an over under of at least 10.
Okay. Well, I guess it's time to do our top stacks on a 15-game slate. Adam, who do you have?
Rockies, Nats.
And Alex, who do you have?
I like the Rockies and Giants as chalk, and let me try to come up with a good contrarian anti-optimizer play here.
Right. We like to call it the AOS.
Yes. I kind of think that the Yankees could be super sneaky just because the talent's so good, and let's see, they're facing a team that has pretty decent pitching, but maybe if they get off to a big lead, they will see some bad relievers.
All right, fair enough. I'll go with Rockies. Go back to the Dodgers. Well, and of course Washington and all the teams we discussed, but I'll throw out Toronto as a contrarian stack against Andrew Kashner, who has been great against lefties, but righties he has struggled a whole lot more against. That'll do it for us. The Live Before Lock show is coming up next. And you'll want to stick around on the channel for that. We've got two of our favorites up next on the show. You've got Jake Harry, and with him today is the one and only. Now we've talked about this show, and maybe he'll. I can't imagine he will. But Chris Randone from The Bachelorette himself going to be on today, leading you up to lock. Hey, before you head out, hit us with a thumbs up if you enjoy the show and want to help support us and want to see more of it. It helps us out a lot, and we greatly appreciate it. So hit that thumbs up, subscribe, hit the notification bell as well so you always know when we're going to drop new content. Until tomorrow, good luck. We'll catch you back here on The Deeper Dive.